So, welcome everyone to this week's edition of the Louisville Real Estate Investor Meetup Group. For those of you guys who are just tuning in for the first time, we actually started this group back in early 2019 and slowly grew. And prior to the pandemic, we were hitting probably roughly 80 to 100 people in our in-person meetups. And obviously, with the pandemic, we kind of shifted our strategy to do a little bit more online. Reaching out to people from across the country, which is one of the benefits of, doing Zooms, because we get to interact with, like, example, Steve or various other speakers that are we wouldn't be able to connect with otherwise. So really today, obviously, Steve is a commercial real estate investor, or I'm sorry, a real estate investor, and also a commercial pilot, as we mentioned. So he has a lot of experience primarily on the property management side. So I think we're going to learn a ton from Steve about how to effectively find property managers and then manage them once through the process. Luke, do you have anything you want to kind of add to that?
Yeah, I just want to say, Steve, appreciate you coming on, man. We know it's a time out of your day, and really appreciate you coming on to talk to us about this stuff. We love this stuff, so we could talk about it all the time, and I'm sure you're similar. So, but thank you for taking the time out of your day and coming here to chat with us tonight. So
yeah, look, guys, my pleasure. I'm here to answer any questions or give you my thoughts on stuff, from investing in real estate, flipping, wholesaling. I mean, I've kind of done it all, both wrong and right. So I can give you my experience over the past 20 years, as well as, owning and growing a management company with my business partner to a pretty large size. But yeah, I'm here for you guys, wherever you guys want to go. Any questions you got, I'm happy to answer them. And if I don't know, I'll probably lie and you won't know the difference either way. So it's good to go, man.
As long as you're confident when you say it, I don't think anyone's going to.
That's right. If you say it with conviction, they'll believe you. They want to believe you. You just got to say it with enough force.
I apply it all the time. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So awesome. So really what we wanted to do is we're probably going to have a list of set questions that we want to ask you pertaining to property management. We're going to open it up to Q&A. But to start out, I kind of wanted to learn, we like to learn a little bit more about the people that come on the meetup. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your background is, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I started off in this crazy world of real estate, not ever wanting to be in real estate. I growing up as a kid, I grew up in Los Angeles. And all I ever wanted to do was be a pilot. That's it. So I went to flight school. I did all that stuff. I got hired with, I was working with a company called TWA out of St. Louis, Missouri. Then I got hired with a major airline, it was Continental Airlines at the time. I was 25 years old, which is pretty young for the average. And I had the best job in the world. I mean, I was living in Guam. I was flying all over the South Pacific, Asia. And I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, I'm good. This is it. And, had the best, to me, it was the best job in the world, most safe, most secure job. And then a certain day in history happened, and that was 9/11. And I realized that my safe, secure job was not safe, and it was not secure. And the reason I found that out was 48 hours after the towers fell, I got delivered my furlough notice. And they basically said, Steve, thanks for being here and being this great employee, but we don't need you. We don't really care about you. And you're about to be on the street with 50,000 other pilots. So, for me, that was a big punch to the face because, obviously 9/11 tragedies, but then now something that I had nothing to do with and I'm out of a job. And this is within hours, 48 hours. And it was very eye-opening to me. And it made me realize that the illusion of a safe, secure job is really that. It's not, and the more specialized you are to being a pilot is actually more dangerous because I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't even drive a truck, And I remember thinking, what am I going to do? I can't even pay my bills. And I'm about to be on the street. And it made me realize how fragile being an employee was. And I didn't know anything about real estate. I didn't know anything. I was 28 years old, 29 years old. And I was like, what am I going to do? I just moved from Guam to Houston. My stuff was on a freaking boat. I literally was like a man on an island, sort of. And I didn't know what to do. So I started just looking and saying, what do people do that are wealthy? What options do I have? And everything kind of tied back to real estate. Everything kept going back to real estate. And so I was like, okay, there's an option here. Let me start learning. So I started reading books and memberships and courses, and I was kind of in a race against time. So I never actually lost my job, but I was 30 from the bottom of a 6,000 pilot furlough list, and they'd already cut 1,200 guys. So I was skimming the bottom. I had to go. I was flying out of Cleveland. I was flying out of Newark, and it was I'm not going to say it's worse, right? Because I had a job, but I kept waiting for the shoe to drop, and I kept waiting for another hiccup or a catastrophe. And we were going through during that time frame. We had SARS, we had H1N1, we had foot and mouth disease. It was like oil prices, and we would joke, it's like, man, the locust must be coming next because everything is hitting us, you know, in the airline industry. And I realized that, you know, no one is going to care more about me than me. No one's going to care about that. So I got mentored. I took classes. I learned how to flip. I learned how to wholesale. And I learned how to buy houses, apartment complexes. And I got my ass kicked. I mean, I got ripped off by everyone you can imagine. I got taken advantage of. Like every single person was just hitting me. And I couldn't figure out why I couldn't succeed. But, you know, I kept getting up every single time because I get knocked down. I'm like, I got to get up because I had no other choices. I didn't know what else to do. And eventually I ended up learning. I learned from my mistakes. And that kind of got me into buying bigger complexes and bigger real estate deals. That got me into owning a bunch of single family properties, which was probably the biggest mistake I ever did. But I say biggest mistake. I bought a bunch of properties. My business partner and I, we had about 35 or 40 low income properties. And those were probably the worst decision we made as a business. But because of that, we had to create a management company to manage our properties because these things were so crappy that nobody would touch them. And so we had to basically figure this out on our own. So we created a management company, not to grow, but really just for self-preservation. We didn't even know what a management company was, but we knew we needed to do something because we sucked at what we were doing and it was not working. We had like a 30% eviction rate. Our tenants were staying 8 months. When they would leave, our make-ready costs were like 3 times the amount because they would take gifts with them, like wiring and copper and appliances and other shit. So we all of a sudden realized, like, okay, we got to do something. And so that's when we started our management company. And then we had other people approach us once we stabilized our properties saying, hey, could you manage our properties? And at first we were like, fuck no, we don't want your shit. Like we barely figured ours out. But what we realized is, okay, maybe there's a business here and a way to scale it. And so I'll kind of stop here, but that's that's the long version of how I got into real estate. It wasn't by choice. Not like you guys. You probably doing this because you want to. I didn't want to do shit with real estate. I didn't want to know about it. I didn't want to be a speaker. I've evolved into that, and I think it's great, and I'm glad I did, but it was never by design. I can tell you that.
Man, all right. Well, I love all that detail, and just to connect with you, and I think a lot of us can connect in the way that you said, where you felt like you had to. I know I've told Raphael this before, but my dad was in a job for 25 years and got laid off in the 2008 deal. And he was supposed to retire in a couple of years. And so I was just like, it's the same job. He was getting towards retirement age and they laid him off. And now he's got to, go find another job at the end of his career. And to me, I was just like, having a job is just not stable enough. And so I 100% agree with you there. And I'm interested in your low income properties topic. So just so you know a little bit more about me, I used to be a public school teacher, and I didn't see a way for me to. I didn't want to go to administration. I honestly didn't see a career advancement opportunity for me in that, and real estate was my, I guess, freedom, and so I just bought a bunch of cheap houses, 2, 3 a year, 25, 30,000. But I tried to buy as nice neighborhoods as I could. What's happened is they've appreciated. And then now I've moved into nicer houses, but I still have houses mainly. I've got a few small multis. So just think about these low income ones. What is it specifically about the low income ones? Besides, like, are you still doing these houses?
So well, here, let me just
saying, because if you were able to successfully get the business going, maybe you could do it, right?
Well, and so let me just say, I think low income properties are fine. I don't have a problem with them. My problem is I had the wrong business model or lack thereof wrapped around those. So the people that we sold a lot of these properties to, they were able to make money with it because they had a better business model. We wanted a certain type of business model, which was passive income, right? Which everyone is sold on. I want to sit back and I want the cash flow coming in. Well, on paper, these properties were 40, 50% cash on cash return deals. You buy a property for $30,000, $40,000 in the ghetto in Houston and you rent it for $900 a month. Well, that's great, right? On paper, you're going, fuck, we can't lose. Like, let's buy as many as we can. But the problem is it's a paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. right? You've got to be able to be lenient on the penalties of rent, late payments, and all that kind of stuff. They're older properties, so you got to have the capital reserves for maintenance, right? Which we didn't have. Like, we were thinking, like, we'll just use the cash flow to pay. So the business model, really the lack thereof, is what caused us to fail. In reality, instead of us owning 35 or 40, we probably should have bought 10, rehabbed them fully, and then put them on the market as good properties. But we didn't. And so we just like, let's just keep buying and buying and buying, and we'll figure it out as we go, which is, in hindsight, we were so shocked it didn't work. Like, I can't believe this isn't working. In hindsight, you're like, well, fuck, why would it have worked? Like, there's no successful business model that would ever work. So it's not that they don't work. Low income properties work, and they have the ratio, they have the highest cash flow, but they're also the most time intensive. So I'll give you an example. When we had our management company, we got to managing about 1,000 properties before I actually sold my business and exited the deal. But we did a time study, So the average rent in Houston at the time was about 12 to maybe 1,400 a month was the median average of rentals. So we did a time study of all properties that we managed that were under $900 a month. And what we realized is, when we looked at the time staffing of our employees, is it was actually double the amount of time after a year of study, double the amount of time to manage these properties that, as a management company, we're making a percentage based on rent. So if you're, let's say 10% or whatever the number is, you're making that, or you manage a $2,000 property and you need less staff people to manage the 2,000. So it turned into more of a business decision of staffing, because they are more time intensive. They have more problems. They have more maintenance time, more cost. Just everything is more intensive as opposed to a $2,000 rental. And you're going, shit, man, I can have, for the staffing per property, I can have more doors per property manager. For this, I got to have half. So that's, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's why we realized that we actually had the shittiest properties of our whole portfolio of companies we manage. We're like, our property manager's like, yeah, these two guys have these shitty properties and they're causing the most time. And we're like, really, who? She's like, your guys' properties are the worst of the whole thing. And we're like, really? Huh, never thought that. And then we started doing a time study. We realized we were the problem.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I guess it makes sense. Sometimes I think with the cheap properties, when you're getting started, it can be good because you'll mess up and everything else, but there's not as much money on the line. So but at the same time, because what I've learned is, I guess, similar to you get these more expensive properties, they rent for more, there's more profit. And then, depending on how you structure the deal and everything, but it's a lot less time. And that's the big thing that you want back. That's why we do real estate, right? Is the time.
Yeah. And real estate is a leverageable asset. And so are the people that are on your team, meaning the management company, all these other things. And, owning a management company, I mean, the shit that I did when we owned our properties, after I learned the laws and I learned what you can and cannot do and what you can and cannot say and all the fair housing, discrimination, protected classes, I was like, oh my God, like, I better tuck that one away here. Because I'll give you an example. Probably many people here who own rental properties, maybe you have your lease, and your lease agreement says that rent is due on the 1st and it's late on the 3rd, right? And eviction process starts on the 4th. Standard lease agreement, right? Well, what people don't realize, and I learned this after owning the company and having employees, is that rent is due on the 1st. It's not due on the 3rd, okay? So again, definition of the contract is you're giving a grace period till the 3rd. If on the 4th, you as the owner of the property or the property manager or whatever, if you do not do per the contract and you do not enforce the agreement that was signed by you and the tenant, you are actually in breach of the contract first, not the tenant, because you're not doing what the contract says. And what's even worse is now you can be in a federal fair housing violation because you are discriminating. Because if a little old lady says, wait a second, why do I have to pay my rent when you let that family of 4 slide? You're discriminating against me and I'm filing a complaint against you. And you've actually breached the contract. So this opens up a whole can of worms. And the problem is when you're in, lower income properties, they're month to month tenants. You have to be able to give them that side. When the rent's $600 a month and your late fees are $150, they're gone in the middle of the night. They're not going to stick around, But the problem is if you don't if you don't charge those fees and you don't do per the contract, you are setting yourself up for a huge fair housing violation. And if you get on the bad side of the federal government with the housing violation, I can tell you it is not fun. I've seen people get destroyed, lose all of their properties because they thought they were being nice. And look, I've done it. We've all done it. But what you don't realize is you're actually incriminating yourself and you're setting a precedent for how you're running your company and you're opening yourself up. So that's why it's scary.
Yeah. And actually property management companies often have some of the highest claims from a legal standpoint.
Very much.
All the real estate industry for that exact reason, because there's so many different variables involved and it's so highly regulated. So it's definitely interesting to hear you say that. But so when I think obviously the calls related to property management. So could you kind of tell us a little bit about maybe the characteristics of what a good property management looks like? And obviously you've evolved through the process, right? Because you probably started off, not being the greatest.
I started off as the shitty client. I was the one that nobody wanted to hire. So basically we had to create our own company. But very much. So one of the things that I'll give you some examples, and I've done stuff with Bigger Pockets on this and other things, written documents. And if anybody wants, I've got like the top 20 questions you should ask a property management company. I'm happy to share it with you guys if you want.
Awesome.
So one of the things you want to think about when you're hiring a management company is, first of all, you get what you pay for in anything in life, right? I don't give a shit what you're doing. A lot of times I'll ask people, I'll go, why did you hire this management company? When they got this spaghetti mess of a problem and they're like, can you fix it? And I'm like, why did you hire this company? And I was trying to understand. They're like, well, they were the first person that answered the phone. Okay. Or they were the cheapest. Well, let's put this in other terms. If you were driving down the street and you saw a doctor on the side of the road spinning one of those signs and he said 50% off surgeries today, would you hire that doctor to do a surgery on you, or a dentist? No, you're going to go to the dentist that you go to, right? Or your doctor. But you're doing the same thing with your financial health, right? So you're committing financial suicide by someone that you're not even vetting, right? You put a tenant in your property, you do background screening, you do checks, you do all this stuff. Why wouldn't you do the same with the company you're partnering with? So a lot of times property management is an afterthought. We don't factor it into our cash flow. So what it is it's one of those things that's an inconvenience after we own the property. We're like, well, shit, I thought I could do this on my own. I guess I need to find someone. Now I don't have the cash flow, so I got to find the cheapest person. And the problem is we never stop to ask that company, what is their rules? What is their policy? What is their business model? Does their business model align with my business model? Do they agree? Do I ask them questions? Do I interview them? Do I set up expectations with them? These are all things that you should do before you hire them, not after. Because what happens is you're sitting there going, man, you guys suck. You don't call me back. You don't give me invoices, this, that. And they're going to go, yeah, that's how we've been the whole time. You hired us. You never asked us those questions. So my recommendation is you got to treat it like a partnership. You got to sit down with them and say, listen, this is what I'm doing, right? So if I were to ask somebody, like, what are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? And they say, like, I want to own 20 properties in 20 years with $20,000 a month in passive income. Okay, that's the goal. Okay. You got to have a team, right? You got to have a GC, maybe a realtor, a property management company, attorney, CPA, whatever. This is part of your team. These are all leverageable assets. These are leverageable tools. You got to sit down with them and say, listen, this is where I'm going. I want these types of properties in these types of areas. This is what I'm looking for you to do. Can you do that? This is what I expect for communication. This is what I expect for you to get back to me on. This is, so we don't do that, right? We just go, well, fuck, they seem like they know what they're doing and they answered the phone, so I might as well hire them. And then they're like, wow, they suck. I can't believe it. It's like, really? So look, we've all done it, right? We've all done the mistakes, but I've just learned if you factor that into the acquisition cost and you run that, even if you try to self-manage it, at least factor that number in so that, number one, you put a value on your time if you want to do it yourself, which I don't recommend, but if you want to, you can. But number two, you can make sure that once you do have to hire them, you've got the money allocated for it.
Yeah. And so we know you covered well, like what kind of characteristics and stuff that we're looking for, but what types of places do you go to find them? Or are there other strategies in terms of, obviously you're not looking at the guy that's spinning the sign on the side of the road saying 50% off, but
well, look, in the world of social media and immediate information, you can go online and you can Google property managers in Louisville, right? And you will find the ones that are on the pins, the ones that have the reviews. You look at the reviews. a review is considered the best form of a personal referral, right? You go on Amazon and you see someone with 2 stars, and you see someone else with 5 stars. You're going to buy the product with 5 stars because you're going, oh, fuck, they must be better. I don't know what they do, but they must be better than this shitty one, right? So online reviews is good, number one. Number two, there's an association out there called NARPM, National Association of Residential Property Managers, NARPM.org. It's like National Association of Realtors, but for property managers. If you go on there and you put in your city, you will be able to find at least people that are in NARPM are in an association, and they're going to operate at a little bit higher caliber and ethical standards than someone. You know, I get it. Look, I coach and I mentor people, and I get a lot of people that are like, hey, I got this agent. She wants to manage my properties. I'm like, do they know what they're doing? Do they have a business model? No, but they think they could do it. Well, fuck, are you kidding me? Like, why would you put your money in everything you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars invested? You're going to give it to someone that thinks they can swing it in between soccer games? Like, no, you hire a professional. If you can't allocate that money, then you made a bad purchase, right? Because you've got to account for that. So you've got to, again, I'm not saying NARPM is the only place to go, but you have to ask those tough questions. I would ask them, you know, what is your eviction rate? What is your days on market? What is the industry days on market? What are your KPIs and your metrics for make readies? You know, how long from the time a tenant leaves to the turn time of when I get it re-rented? What does an average make ready cost? What you're doing is you're not necessarily asking them those questions to get answers. You're trying to see if they know their numbers. Because the company, if a guy's going, fuck, I don't know, not sure, no idea, they're not running their business right. So anyone who's running their business is going to know their numbers. They may go, you know what, I don't know, but let me get back to you. And they can come back and go, average days on market in Louisville is 35 days. Our days to rent is 21. Our average rent range is 1,900 to 2,400. You know, those are things that you're looking for. You're looking for stats and data because that's how they're running their business. And that's how they're going to run your business because you are the CEO of your business. They are an operating system of your business. I used to get a lot of people, you know, that would find me online or whatever. And they would reach out, you know, we did a lot of stuff with out of country owners. So we get a lot of people from out of country and they'd be like, hey, I just want to hand you the property and you take care of it. Like I've seen you on YouTube and videos and shit. And I want you to handle it. And I would go, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, I trust you. I'm like, you don't know me. Why would you trust me? This is your money. This is your business. It's your responsibility. Don't own a business through abdication. If you want to do that, buy a mutual fund or a syndication. You own a property. It's your job to verify the numbers. It's my job to give you the numbers, but it's your job to verify it. So a lot of people, they get a management company and they think they're done with it. Like, oh, I'm done with it. That's just the beginning. You are the CEO of your business. You can never abdicate success. You have to make sure that you are an integral part of that success. And you have to ask those questions. You have to be the leader and you have to make sure everyone is accountable to you.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that actually leads us to our next question, which is related to effectively managing your property manager. Because like you said, you're not going to abdicate responsibility for everything because what gets measured gets managed. And if you're not constantly on top of them, not necessarily on top of them, but at least checking up and making sure that things are going correct, then things can fall by the wayside and then you have no one to blame but yourself. So could you kind of explain, I guess, some of the methods you can use to effectively manage, you know, the relationship between yourself and the property management?
Yeah. And again, I think it goes back to that. I think, look, when we had our companies, you know, we would always try any contractor we did business with as a management company, we would have an expectation meeting with them. We didn't call it that. We're like, look, we just want to make sure that you understand what you're getting out of this. And we want to understand what we're getting out of this. Let's make sure that we know what we're doing. What part of those questions are, how do you like to communicate? Like, how do you communicate with text, email, Twitter, smoke signals? Fuck, I don't know. Like, how do you communicate with us? And when should we expect that communication? Like, if I send you, like your property manager, if I send you a message today to call me, when do I get a call back? They may be like, oh, when we get to it. It's like, well, that doesn't work for me. So then you have to make a decision as the owner of the business. Am I willing to accept this? They may say our standard policy is 24 to 48 hours. Okay. If it's an emergency, it's within an hour. Okay. Now you know. So you're setting up you can't just sit there and say, man, they never call me back. They're going to go, yeah, we never call anyone back. We're voiceless or whatever the fuck they call it nowadays, right? That's what we do. So it's like, you've got to make sure you have the right expectations with whoever you're talking to make sure that everyone is aligned with each other. And that's the biggest challenge. Is it's all a matter of communication and setting that expectation. You may say like, I'll give you an example. When we had our management company, a big portion of what we ran, our operations, was out of Mexico. So we did a lot of work with virtual assistants in Mexico. And every call that came in went to Mexico. Why? Because people want to talk to someone, right? You call up, you got a problem, you want to talk to someone. Or our property managers are busy. They're dealing with shit, dealing with problems. They may miss the call. We don't want that call missed. We want someone to answer the call. Now, for us, what we would do is we would actually take it a step further and go, why are they calling? Like, look, at the end of the day, you don't want to have to call your property manager. You don't even want to have to deal with them. The best property management company in the world is the one that says, man, I've owned this property for 10 years. I don't even know who manages my property, but I get my rent every month. I get inspection reports. I get everything. Best company in the world. The worst company is they go, hey, Tony, just so you know, we got to work today. Everything's good. Your tenant called. They got a problem. They're bitching. But what do you think? What do you think we should do, Tony? You think we should do it, or do you think we shouldn't do it? It's like, fuck, I don't know, man. That's why I'm paying you to do this. So again, that's a matter of setting the expectation. Some people want to be involved. I used to say when we managed, so we had 1,000 properties, right? We were in 3 different cities. So I tell people we had 1,000 properties, we had 1,000 tenants, we had about 700 owners, and we had about 500 contractors. And everybody has a different definition of happiness. It's like you're married to all these people and everybody hates you, and everyone calls to bitch at you. And you're like, I don't know what you want. So we had to set the expectations. Our job is to run it down the line of what's legal and what's not legal. And so our job is to basically set the line of expectations. This is when you'll be notified. This is when you'll be talked to. So I know I'm kind of babbling here, but it's a matter of having communication, really.
Yeah. And so as far as like, I know you said earlier that you don't really recommend self-management for people, but is there a line, like how would somebody that was in real estate, how would they know, should they self-manage for a certain period of time, certain number of doors, or when is it the right time to hire a property manager? Is, in your opinion, is it just go ahead from the get-go and do it? Or what do you think on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'm not saying this as someone who owned a company. I'm saying this, you have to define what is your strategy and what is your goal. I don't think there's anything wrong with self-managing. I mean, I wrote on my website, I wrote a book on self-managing. So you can take it, and it's a reference manual. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But if you're going to do it, there's a lot of laws. I mean, 1 out of 3 landlords is in some form of lawsuit and litigation every year, and they lose everything that they own. You've got IRS, fair housing, discrimination. You've got property code. You've got all these people that are watching you, the landlord, because you have a living, breathing person in that property. You can get sued and lose everything with 1 property as you can with 50. I don't think there's anything wrong with self-management, but if you're going to do it, you've got to run it like a business. You have to take the time to educate yourself. You've got to know the laws, especially with COVID-19. You've got rent eviction moratoriums, right? You've got emotional support animals. We won't even go into that shit, right? You've got rent control laws. You've got all these things that are governing you, the landlord. The one person who doesn't know all these laws is the landlord. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think if you want to do it, you can do it. Look, let's be honest. This isn't rocket science. We're not going to the moon here, right? Somebody lives in the property, they rent the property, they pay you rent. But your job is to run it like a business and make sure that you are running it like a legal business in this arena that you're in. It's kind of like if you were to say like, hey, Steve, I'm going to go to Hawaii with the family. I think I'm going to go get a plane. I'm going to take a couple lessons around the patch. And then I think I'm going to jump in and we're going to head west over to Honolulu. You could make it. You could not, right? There's odds. Odds are probably you wouldn't, but you got some odds. Or you could just say, you know what, fuck it. I'll just buy an airline ticket and let someone else do it. It's kind of the same thing. You could self-manage it, but if my point is if that's not part of your plan and not part of your strategy, why would you learn? If you're like, hey, I want to fly around the world, but I think I'm going to learn to fly first. It's like, no, that's not part of my strategy. I want to fly around the world and have someone fly me. Why put in the work? That's just my opinion.
Makes sense.
Yeah, highest and best use of your time, I think, is the valuable portion there. Because again,
Yeah.
you could be focusing your attention on something you're really good at, and that could be something that drives the income. Whether you're searching for deals, underwriting deals, etc. As a real estate investor.
Well, I'll give you an example. So my son, he bought his first rental property at 14 years old, right?
Congrats.
And
awesome.
it's a whole other story. But yeah, so he owns a rental property, right? And so everyone's like, oh man, like did you have him paint and clean up? I'm like, no. I'm like, why would I have him do that? They're like, so he can learn how to do that. I'm like, I don't want him to learn to do that. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not what I want him to learn. I want him to learn to be a business owner. How about taking the time to teach him P&L statements, forecasting, rent rolls? why am I teaching them to be a good employee, trading time for money? I don't do that. Hey, I don't, do this shit. I hire someone, but you should do it. I don't want him to learn that because he's learning to be a good employee. I want him to learn to be a good business owner. What are the numbers telling you? Do the numbers make sense or do they not? So, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with people that do that. I'm just saying careful what you're teaching your kids because that's a reflection of how you think. Just because you know how to do it doesn't mean you need to do it. So I'm just not a big believer in saying like, hey, we should all learn to, sweep floors and paint. I don't know how to do that. It took me 4 hours to put a mailbox up one time. Me and my business partner almost killed each other with a hammer. I'm like, dude, we got to stop. Like, this is not a good idea. So again, we all have skill sets. Mine is not in construction,
I love that because I've struggled with that whole shift my whole life. Just, I have that employee mindset and then I have to try to break from it. And it's a process for me.
Yeah. And look, and honestly, look, there's nothing wrong with it. I grew up working and shit and hey, on commercial, come dig this hill out and shit like that as a kid, but that's just not what I want to do. So why would I teach him to be that when that's kind of hypocritical of me,
Yeah, no, 100% agree. If somebody decided they wanted to start a property management company, kind of like you did, I know you probably don't suggest step number one, put a gun to your head.
Number one, get a lot of alcohol. No, look, property management, I'll tell you, owning a property management company, it's a great business in the sense that it's almost recession proof because when times are good, you've got people that are buying properties, investors. When times are bad and people can't sell their properties, which most people have never seen bad times, but they're coming. But when times are bad and people can't sell their properties, all of a sudden those homeowners become landlords. So it works both sides of the spectrum. So it's really actually a pretty good business model. Margins are good, right? It is a very process and procedure driven business though. It's a lot of processes, a lot of procedures, there's a lot of moving parts. You've got a lot of people interacting. It's a great business. I think it's good. I think it's very scalable. I mean, in 7 years, we built it to 1,000 doors and we sold it for 7 figures. I mean, it was a great opportunity, but I'll tell you what, you are a fucking complaint desk. They only call you to yell at you or fire you. That's the only time your phone rings. It's never you never call your property manager and be like, hey man, you guys are doing a great job. Just keep it up. You call them to bitch at them, right? So you have to be okay with that. Like you have to understand the business model. As long as you understand that and you're okay with it, it's fine. But look, I've done a lot of speaking for NARPM nationally. I spoke in Australia about it. I've done a lot of tours. It's a great business. But again, you have to understand, a lot of people tell me, they're like, oh, I own 30 doors, so I'm going to start my own management company. And so my question to them is, are you doing this to start a business or are you doing this to fill a problem because you have a shitty management company? Well, I just have a bad management company. Well, then, hire a new one. Don't go and start a whole new business because it's like you had bad Chinese food. So now you're going to become a Chinese food chef and you're going to start cooking Chinese food for everyone. It doesn't make sense, right? What you have to do is you have to think like, okay, why am I doing this? Is this part of my goal? So when I coach people or mentor them and they're like 20 properties, 20 years, 20,000 a month. And they're like, hey, I'm going to start doing this. My first question is this part of the goal? Is this part of the strategy? If the answer is no, if you cannot say indefinitely yes, then the answer is no. Then I'm going to go, you either can't do it or you got to change the goal. So a lot of times we do it because it's a byproduct because you have a shitty meal. So you're like, oh, well, this is horrible. It's just a shitty meal. You have a shitty management company. Maybe you could look back and look at that and go, you know what? Maybe I didn't ask the right questions. Maybe there were some red flags before I even hired them, And so there's things that you can look back and see a lot of red flags. I'll give you an example. In flying, whenever there's a crash or, disaster or whatever you want to call it, we will go and they'll use it as an example and they'll do the crash investigation and they'll teach us what went wrong. And on average, it's 7 things that go wrong in an air disaster. Any kind of catastrophe, actually, it's statistically 7 things, right? And them hitting the ground is obviously the final thing, but normally there's things that lead up to that, right? So if you look back at that, you'll see red flags. Maybe they didn't sleep well. Maybe they were not, the 2 pilots weren't talking. Maybe they didn't see the right airplane. All these little flags, right? Well, so my thing is if you look back at a disaster in your property or property management company or any issue, mistake, anything that happened, you could probably go back and retrace those steps and you'll probably find about 7 things that went wrong that you either chose to ignore or you just didn't notice because you were too busy being busy, not being the CEO. and you did not look at those flags. But contrast to that, if it's 7 things that cause a disaster, maybe it's 7 things that cause you to be successful. Maybe you can do 7. It's not one thing. It's not just hiring a management company and all of a sudden you're going to have this glorious life. It's 7 things statistically. So you just got to think to yourself, okay, what are the 7 things that are causing the disaster and what can I learn from that to be successful?
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. And I think a big part of that is just self-awareness and taking a step back before making a decision and determining whether or not it's the right path to take. And that's something that comes with time and practice, but I 100% agree with you. I think that's a phenomenal advice. So
yeah, I'll tell you, you know, a lot of people, especially in real estate, especially when money's involved, we tend to make knee-jerk reactions in business settings. And I don't know about you, but I have never seen someone do an emotional knee-jerk reaction and they go, you know what, like a week, a month, a year later, and they're like, that was the smart idea. I'm glad I did that. It never works, right? So just like you said, it's one of those things. You got to step back. You got to take a breath. You got to think about it and go, okay, is this really worth battling? Is this, you know, is this guy bitching at me? Is he bitching at me because he's bitching at me? Or is there a problem upstream? Was there a red flag upstream that probably should have been handled? And I'm just getting the repercussion of it. So now I'm going to yell back at him. And so that's the thing in real estate, you know, especially if you self-manage, you got to learn anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Be very, very careful what you text and type and, you know, what a tweet or whatever you do.
Oh, that's some great advice. So just to round out just the preset questions for today, what exactly are some of the best resources? I know you mentioned NARPM, but are there any other resources out there that, you know, people can reference in order to, number one, identify a good property manager, and then if they're interested in possibly starting a property management company, also resources that can help them along that line as well?
Yeah, you know, I mean, look, there's a lot of Facebook groups out there that I know of that are great. You got to be a property manager to be in some of them, but some of them not. You know, what I would look at first of all is whenever I've asked someone like, "Why do you want to build a management company?" They're like, "Because there's none in my area." I just had someone tell me, I'm like, "Where do you live?" Miami. I'm like, "Are you shitting me? Do you really think there's no management companies in Miami? Like, maybe there's no good ones, or maybe you didn't do any research, but I guarantee you there are management companies there." And so my next question is before you do that, did you do any due diligence? Did you do any secret shopping? Did you call them? Did you look them up? Did you talk to people that don't use them? Look them up on Better Business Bureau. You know, look, just because you think it's a good idea doesn't, you know, maybe you're entering a red bloody water shark fest, and maybe there's a blue ocean somewhere else. So it's you know, NARPM is great. NARPM is really good because they're a nonprofit. They help. The members are really good. Like when we first started, I'll give you an example. We became members of NARPM, and we're like, you know, we went to like this event, and there was like, you know, we had like, I don't know, like 120 properties or something, and we're like, you know, these guys with 500 doors and 1,000 doors. We're like, holy shit, man! Like, how they do that, you know? And I'll never forget. There was a guy in South Carolina, became a very good friend of ours, and he had like 1,700 doors. And I called him up one day, and I was like, hey, would it be possible if we just came out and just kind of understood about your business? I'm like, we're in Texas, you're in South Carolina, so there's no conflict. We just would like to understand how you run your business and all the different facets. And he was like, absolutely. He's like, you're the first people that ever came out. So we went out there, we spent 2 days with this guy. He showed us his whole operation, tip to tip, man, everything. And I thought, man, that's cool. So we used to have people come to us all the time. My company, Empire Industries, we'd have people come all the time like, hey, can we come down for a day or two and just see what you guys do? And we're like, yeah, man, come on down. So you'd be surprised at how open people are. And you don't, even if they're in your market, they're not really competing with you. You've got different areas, different markets, different niches. You just have to reach out to them. You don't have to be this clandestine thing. But first of all, do your market research and your due diligence to see, is there even a need? Just because you had one shitty management company doesn't mean there's none. You know, you may be in there with the price battle going, I don't know how they make money on this. Maybe they're charging, you know, $59 a month or something, and there's no way to make money at that. So do your homework first.
Definitely. And then I'll even say the really interesting thing you said, leveraging relationships outside of your market. Yeah. So like you said, you referenced someone in South Carolina. Just in our town, for example, in Louisville, there's Cincinnati's an hour away. Indianapolis is 2 hours away. Columbus is 3 hours away. Nashville's 3 hours away. You mean to tell me there's not like 5 or 6 decent property managers in some of those cities? I mean, I mean, those relationships are there for the taking if you're willing to leverage them. And obviously now with the online platform that we find ourselves in Zoom, LinkedIn, et cetera, it's so much easier to be able to, reach out to these people and kind of pick their brain.
Well, and honestly, even in your city, like we're good friends with our competitors. Like we'd hang out and drink with them and whatever, it's like we're not competing with each other. We talk about like, hey, how do you guys handle this? Like, do you have a good contractor? Hey, do you guys have a good painter? Ours just disappeared. They're like, yeah, call this guy, because you want to keep the contractors working so that they don't go MIA. So you want to keep giving them business. So it's very much a congealed industry. I've noticed it's not as cutthroat as you may think. They're not like, oh, I'm not going to tell you anything. We used to talk with our competitors all the time. It was very, which for me was kind of weird. You're kind of like, should we talk to this dude? He's like in our neighborhood. And they'd be like, man, I don't give a shit. Like, you want this? You want this form? This is a form we use. Here, take it. Like, oh, cool. So it taught me a lot about giving back and not having that mindset of, contracting. It was more of the abundance. They're very abundance mindset people.
That's awesome. Great advice. Okay. So I think what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to open it up to Q&A. So if you guys are here in the Zoom call, feel free to chime away. And then those of you guys watching on Facebook, feel free to type away and we'll ask some questions for you on your behalf.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve, this is Jake. How else do you see investors, companies utilize property management companies outside of day-to-day management? What else can a property manager do for you as an investor that you've seen work?
Oh yeah, man. There's one of the things that we used to do is a couple things. We would do evictions for people. So if a self-manager had an eviction, they needed an eviction, we do that. I'm a big believer in connections. So people would call me being like, hey, do you have a good plumber? Do you have this? So even if I manage their property or not, I would help them. Right. And, the other thing that we would do is we had 1,000 properties, right? Those properties turn over, right? The average investor sells their properties on year 3, year 5, and year 7. So properties are turning. Well, we want to keep managing that property. So if we're managing one of your properties and you're like, hey guys, if you ever get another property, let me know. Well, we want to keep it in our stock. So we may call you up and be like, hey, we got a property. Do you want it? Here's the rent. Here's this. Here's the tenant. Here's the history on it. Do you want it? Well, all you got to do is basically sign the docs and it's a done deal. So building your own portfolio. Like why, when you think about it, let's just say that you are going to buy a property. My suggestion is look, and I've got nothing against realtors. I use them myself, but why wouldn't you want to use a realtor that's with a management company? They're going to tell you what the cash flow is. They're going to tell you what the rent rates are. Like we'd have people call us all the time. Like, hey, I'm going to buy this property. Agent says it rents for $1,900 a month. And we're like, I don't know what fucking world they live in, but that's about a $1,500 a month rental because we manage 60 of them in this same neighborhood. And they're like, well, I don't think they're misleading them. I just don't think they know. I don't think they look at it the same way we do. So the last thing we want to do is have you buy a problem property and then hand it to us. And you're like, give me $1,900 a month. And we're like, dude, it ain't happening, man. And now you're like, well, this sucks. It's like, well, yeah, you got, so my point is if you use the management company, if they can help you on the acquisition, great. But if not, I used to tell people, like, bring us into the conversation. We're a third set of eyes. So if somebody says like, hey, Steve, I'm buying this property. Well, we don't want you to buy a piece of shit that we don't want to manage, because we had many people, they buy it and we're like, we're not managing that. And they're like, why didn't you tell me that before? It's like, we didn't ask. So we would tell them like, look, if you're buying something, let us know. We're going to give you our thoughts. Like, you know what? That's not a good area. That's a declining area. I would not purchase it there, or be prepared for what you're going to buy. So it's a good third party, no skin in the game kind of conversation.
That's been my experience, and was curious. You've seen this across the country, if that's common for markets, for property managers to not just be this person that's taking care of your day to day, but somebody that's serving many roles on your team and helping you look at the business as a whole.
Yeah, I would tell owners all the time. I'm like, look, man, I want you to call me up and be like, hey, Steve, should I buy this or should I not? Well, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, does this align with where you're going? Right? If not, then we either got to change the goal or you don't buy it. But if they're like, yeah, this makes sense, I'll be like, okay, well, tell me why. They'll tell me why. I'm like, yeah, then based on the numbers, I would say move forward. Even if we weren't the agent on it, but we know we're going to manage it. So our business model was based on just managing the asset. So we were focused on making sure that they were buying a good asset to get them what they want. So that was our main thing, is we were part of their team to give them making smart decisions.
Awesome. Did more on a side question? Did you ever branch into managing any commercial properties outside?
No,
maybe
you know,
multifamily?
it's funny. We did not. And, you know, I had owned multifamily before. And I will tell you, multifamily is a much different animal than single family. And, you know, our business decision was we stayed in our vertical and we went very deep in that vertical. And we used to say, we make cheese pizzas. They're very basic. They're very simple, but we make the best cheese pizzas. We're not flipping. We're not wholesaling. We're not doing any other shit. We make cheese pizzas. So people know if they want a cheese pizza, we're the guys to go to. So because we are so vertical, everybody knew like those are the guys that do single family properties. They're in no conflict with anyone. They know what they're doing and they got their eye on the ball. So it actually gave, by us being more focused, it actually made us more marketable to other people because that was all that we did. And so it actually helped us grow because that was our point of difference. We're not doing a bunch of shit. We're doing one thing and we're doing that very, very good.
Yep. Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, right? The one
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Great book. All right, let me check the chat. Let's see. Any other questions you guys have for Steve? You guys on Facebook as well?
Steve, I think the most common management fee that you see is a percentage of gross rent. Any other structures that you've seen be common out there in different markets and or work well from the property manager, but also a good way to structure it from the investor?
Yeah, actually what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, so the company that bought my company is called Mind, MYND, and they got about 8,000 doors national, and I still do some stuff with them. And they, along with a lot of companies, are doing a lot of tiered pricing. So they're trying to be, companies are trying to be a lot more transparent with what you get as a client. So and we were actually going to that where we were doing a tiered pricing structure. So let's say it's a flat fee, not a percentage. So let's say it's like $79 a month, $129 a month, or $189 a month, right? Let's just use those numbers, right? But you're getting a lot of things like, you know, it's scaled, right? And so like the 189, you're getting like eviction protection, you're getting rent protection, you're getting like anything happens, man, you're still getting your rent money. Nothing's changed, right? And so that's a decision. So a lot of companies are now going to a 3-tiered pricing structure, we've noticed. Normally they want you at the middle tier is really what they want you at. But the 3-tiered structure is really where it's going. And, you know, some people like at Mind, I think it's like, I don't know, like $49 a month or something for basic, like basically you don't get shit. You just get someone to collect the rent and do that. Everything else is a la carte. But maybe that's what you want. Like, look, I don't want to deal with that part. I'll deal with the other stuff. So it's kind of good that they're giving those options now because that's what the consumer wants. So, you know, the market will dictate what people want. And that's kind of what it's dictating, a tiered pricing structure.
Not surprised to hear that with the way most companies are structured these days. You got a lot of those tiers. I can see where that would be a staffing issue on the property management side, maybe, you know, trying to service a la carte and not knowing everybody's, you know.
Yeah, I think that's probably more of a property software issue. Making sure that the software can handle it, which most softwares now can. You know, you check the box of what they're getting so that when when the property manager looks up their profile, they can see what they got. But that's kind of more of a check thing for software, I would assume.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah. And I imagine with a tier system, like you said, it's a lot more transparent versus like, at least my experience with property managers that I've had in the past, and I'm self-managing right now, but I'm looking into the option of getting a property manager for what I do. But a lot of the times it was like, oh yeah, we'll quote you a low gross fee, but then there's all these different types of fees, like an application fee.
But wait,
now it's like, oh, half month's rent to fill the space, like all this other stuff. So I appreciate the fact it's becoming more transparent because that's definitely one of the things that rubbed me the wrong way sometimes.
Yeah, and I just think that's where the industry is going. I think that's where what the consumer wants, and so they've got to deliver. And so, you know, you've got people that are doing this, and you know, again, there's no reason to have these hidden smoke and mirrors. Like it's like, look, this is the fee. You want this, you want this, you want this. The biggest problem is the management company is not, they don't have their shit together to get it all done. And that's kind of the challenge with property management companies. I'll tell you, one of the challenges, the property management industry is very splintered and it's very mom and pop, or it's very institutional. And so the problem is when you have mom and pops, you don't have a lot of systems, policies, and procedures, right? So what happens a lot of times a lot of people that are a property manager, right? They were a realtor, then they became a property manager, and that kind of identifies who they are. So they are the, you know, cook, bottle washer, CEO, all this stuff, right? That defines who they are. So they're the limiting problem, and there's no systems or procedures. So if this guy gets hit by a car, you're going, well, what the hell? Like, what do I do now, right? So that's the problem with a lot of these smaller property management companies, is that's their identity. So when we ran our business, we looked at it because we were coached by a business coach who taught us from the beginning that you own a business. There's a chassis that runs under that business. Even if you flip properties or rentals or whatever, you've got marketing, you've got sales, you've got operations, you've got finance, and then you got IT, HR, depending on how big you are. But every business runs under that. So we used to say, like, we own a business. It's just our widget that we sell is a service of managing properties. It could be dog food, it could be shampoo, it could be anything. This today just happens to be property management, but they all run under the same chassis. You got to market, you got to learn how to, once the phone rings, sales has to convert it, operations has to run the operation, accounting has to run everything, and everything has to have metrics. Everything has to be KPI'd, tested, measured, and metrics. And that's any business. And so that's a challenge with a lot of PM companies, is they don't have that because one person is doing everything.
Definitely. Of course. All right. So Mohammed, he more of a comment, but he said he was paying a flat fee with a company in Louisville, and it sucked because when you had a vacancy, you still had to pay the fee. So I guess there wasn't the incentive, maybe. So that's interesting.
Yeah. And there's many companies that have different structures. And my thing is I'm not saying one is right or wrong, but you got to look at it from a business perspective. Like, so we used to charge, we had like an idling fee if it was vacant. So it was like, I don't know, $50 or whatever it was when it was vacant. And people are like, well, I'm not making any money. Why should you make money? That's a fair statement. My next question to them is, so when you sell the property and you make $100,000, do I get a piece of that too? Because you're making money, so I should make money, right? Oh, no, that's my money. It's like, okay, so I still have staffing costs. When the property is vacant, it's actually busier because you've got to get the property made ready. You've got to get lawn service, depending on what they do, right? Some companies don't do shit, but there's a lot of things that have to happen. We would tell them, like, we're actually busier when the property's vacant. We got to get to the property. You got to rekey it if you're doing it all correctly, obviously. But it's like, that's the cost of running your business, right? So I understand both sides of it, but if you want to make the money if you don't want to give me the money that way, that's fine. But then I should get the upside when you sell it. What's fair is fair. But obviously nobody wants to do that. I mean, who's going to do that, right?
Great point. Awesome, Steve. All right, we'll give it one more minute for any questions you guys have. We're running right up on 7 p.m. So, any other questions?
Steve, where do you spend most of your time these days? I know you're always on these calls. I see you a ton with Bigger Pockets, but where do you enjoy spending most of your time these days?
Well, I actually created I've got a mastermind of my own, and I've been creating a lot of educational content. I created a whole educational series on it's a company called Lightspeed VT, which is Brad Lee. So I created educational video courses showing investors how to go from 0 to 1, 1 to 5, 5 to 10, all that kind of stuff. So I film equipment, content nonstop. I'm going to Los Angeles this weekend with the film crew, doing another round of filming. So it's kind of being more of an influencer and educating. I really like educating. That's kind of I guess you would say the 2.0 of my life, is helping people try to become better at what they're doing. Because I've noticed a lot of people out there talk about how to do stuff, how you flip, how you wholesale, all that shit. But nobody talks about why you're doing it. So you're driving down the street, you see one house on one side, one house on the other. Which one is the right one, right? Which one is the right one? So to me, the right one is the one that matches your goals and part of your strategy. So that's kind of my thing is I try to help people. So I do a lot of education and content and all that, masterminds and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it definitely shows in the way that you project yourself. You come from a very giving mindset, so we really do appreciate that.
My pleasure.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I guess if we know no more questions, first off, just thank you so much, Steve, for stopping by. If people wanted to get in contact with you, learn more about you, learn some of the services you offer, how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, they can go to my website, steverosenberg.com. All my stuff's there, and it's ROZENBERG. If you want to, I don't know, if you want to talk to me, you want to join my mastermind, whatever you guys want to do, I'm happy. I'm here to help. That's all I want to do. Also, you can follow me on Instagram, Rosenberg Steve, or on Facebook, Steve Rosenberg. But again, I'm here. I'm sure people have probably seen me on some platform. I'm on podcast shows and everything. every week. I'm on 2 or 3 a week. And again, I just like giving back. So if I can help anyone, if anyone has any personal questions, Raphael, I'm happy to send you that document of the top 20 questions to ask a property management company. I'll email that to you if you can remind me. And again, if anybody has questions or they want to know, I'm more than happy to help, and I'm available to anyone that needs some help if I can do that.
Yeah, and again, this will be recorded as well. It'll be posted on YouTube channel, so you guys can watch this into perpetuity. And then once you have that document, I can post that out as well in the description, and everyone can have access to it. So
yeah, happy to help.
Yeah,
awesome.
Thanks, Steve, so much for coming, man. We really appreciate it. It's been
You got it, man. You got it. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
You guys are awesome. See you guys.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.